Hi, I'm Ted Nelson. I'm going to tell you about two friends and how I had to choose and betray one of them. And later got betrayed again. The first friend I'll talk about is Calvin Mooers, M-O-O-E-R-S. After I gave my major paper in 1965 at the 20th National Congress of the ACM, he approached me and he had a language called TRAC, Text Reckoning and Compiling Language. It was a very simple language, ideally suited to a keyboard, which back in the day before we had pointing devices and before more complex languages became popular. It was a very simple language for people to use. And it had little ways of keeping data, ways of organizing the data into programs and so on. It's not high power, but it was well designed. So it was TRAC, and he had a registered trademark on that TRAC. And he stressed to me over the years the importance of trademark. Trademark is free. You can put a TM on anything free, and that gives you a lever for keeping that trademark if you want it later. So that's why I put TM on a whole lot of things over the years. I registered a few trademarks. The one thing I didn't put a TM on and should have when I thought of it was PlayStation, because I could have picked up some money from when Nintendo wanted to use that. However, so Calvin, TRAC language, and trademarks. 5 years later, in 1970, I met the Resistors Computer Club. They coalesced around Claude Kagan's barn. Now, Claude Kagan was an interesting fellow, always smoking a pipe. And he worked at Western Electric, but when he wasn't there, he was in his barn encouraging the kids to work with computers, especially his terminal, which went to the PDP-6 at Western Electric. And he had a version running of TRAC, which he was teaching all the kids. It wasn't the authorized Calvin Mooers version, but I didn't say anything. So, Claude hired me as a consultant to work on this version of TRAC, and he had a little brochure for it. And I forget what I wrote, but he paid me $400 for something of it. But there I was holding a brochure where Claude Kagan was using the name TRAC that Mooers had trademarked. So, not to tell Mooers would be betraying Mooers. To tell Mooers would be betraying Claude. Which did I do? Well, Calvin was my older friend. I sent him the little brochure that Claude had made for his version of TRAC. Calvin did not sue Claude. Calvin brought some sort of suit in interstate commerce on a very high level against Western Electric. I forget the charge, but it was a ferocious lawsuit, and part of the settlement, I don't know if he got any money, part of the settlement was that Claude was not allowed to work on TRAC anymore. So Claude was extremely angry at me after that. What was my choice? So, with Bill Barris, around 1980, I made an agreement with Claude over the phone. Pardon me. I then asked Calvin if it would be okay to create a version of TRAC, call it by another name, and pay him a royalty. And he said yes. And so Bill Barris and I created a version called Super Language, and it was explicitly a version of TRAC with Calvin's permission. So I called Calvin about this, and he said, I don't remember giving you any permission. So I betrayed Claude, And then Calvin betrayed me. So it's a dirty world out there. Anyway, the TRAC language, recently Nat Kuhn, a former resistor, created a version of it in Python. Calvin is not around anymore to guard that trademark. It's a sad story.